Welcome back.
Welcome.
We are back today with another story. It is like spooky woods story, I think.
Yup.
It is called "There Is Something in the Forest Pretending to Be a Person" by Decisive Unluckiness. It's pretty cool. I was reading through a little bit of it when we were setting up the document and stuff, and it sounds pretty cool. So I'm looking forward to this one. I
Me too.
also want to say, our last video we did a bunch of like subtitles and stuff in the background, like just so you guys could read along. It took a lot of time, so I'm wondering. I don't know if I'm gonna do it with this one not or yet, but I was just wondering if you guys like that more or not. If you do, let me know in the comments, just so I
Yeah.
know if I'm gonna like proceed with doing it or if I should wait to do it. I'm just kind of just playing it out. So you guys just let me know if you like it or not. But anyways, Ben, take it away.
I will. The bus ride out was long and quiet. I spent most of it either staring out the window or drifting in and out of in and out of sleep. I was the last one aboard after a few passengers trickled off in small rural towns. The bus suddenly came to a halt, and a distraught man got aboard. Jesus, I'm struggling already. He stumbled down the aisle, sat across from me, and began to scribble intently into a battered, leather-bound book. He looked older, maybe in his 60s, tired and looking, wearing well-worn and dirty hiking gear. He spent the whole ride either writing or flipping through the pages. About an hour before my stop, the bus driver called out, Rainheim National Park, Ranger Station. The man abruptly stood up and rushed to the front of the bus. He searched his pockets frantically, then slapped some loose change onto the fare counter before darting off without saying a word. Sometime later, the bus driver called out my stop. As I was about to exit, I noticed that the man from earlier had, in his hurry, left his book on the seat behind the driver. I figured I'd keep it safe. If I saw him again on the trail, I could return it, or I could hand it over to the rangers on my way back home. The trail was empty except the occasional deer or rabbit darting between the trees. I spent hours listening to the crunch under my boots, bird calls, and the rustles of leaves and pine needles. As the sun kept closer to the horizon, I figured it was time to set up my camp for the night. I found a suitable spot next to a small stream and began unpacking my backpack. I set up my tent, gathered some firewood, and boiled water from the stream to rehydrate a freeze-dried meal. The sun dipped below the horizon and the temperature began to sink. I tucked myself into my sleeping bag, but I couldn't shake the urge I had been trying to ignore all evening. I glanced over at the book, sitting half buried in the open lid of my pack. I reached for it and flipped to the first few pages. The handwriting was compact, but neat. It started off like any trail journal, short entries about trail conditions, notes on the weather, and a few sketches of flowers. One entry even described a fox encounter in surprisingly poetic detail. I had just turned to another page when I heard a voice call out. Hello? Anyone there?
Ugh. So wait, is he by himself? He's doing this trip by himself?
I guess so, yeah.
Oh, hell no, bro.
Bro, you don't want to sleep in the middle of the woods by yourself on the...
Not
Come on now.
overly. I slowly unzipped the tent.
Sounds like a great time.
I slowly unzipped the tent and poked my head out. In the dim glow of the dying embers, I could just make out the outline of a man standing a few meters away. Sorry to bother you. I noticed your fire, the man said. Would you mind if I pitch my tent here? It's getting late, and I'd rather not stumble around looking for another spot in the dark. Out here, hospitality felt less like a choice and more like an unspoken rule. Sure, plenty of space, I answered hesitantly. He crouched and began to stir the fire with a practiced hand. With a few quick motions, he coaxed? Coaxed? I don't know how to say that.
Coaxed.
Coaxed? Oh,
Yep.
okay. Coaxed the embers back into a flame. The fire blared brighter than it had all evening, cracking and alive again, pushing back the shadows and fully illuminating his face. He looked to be in his 50s, nearly bald with small patches of hair clinging to his scalp. dark rings around his eyes, and an unshaved jaw. His clothes were covered in dried mud. He smiled faintly. Asmongold?
Oh, God. Fucked up.
Sorry. Hope you don't mind, he said, glancing up at me. He lowered himself onto a rock across from me and warmed his hands over the fire. My name's Eric, he said. After a moment, you been out here long? I'm John. First day out here. You? Long enough, he replied with a chuckle. Well, I don't want to keep you up all night. I crawled back into my sleeping bag as he pitched his tent next to mine. The last thing I saw before I drifted off to sleep was a silhouette sitting perfectly still by the fire. Morning, I mumbled, stepping out of my tent. A small kettle of water hissed quietly on a makeshift grate over the flames. I didn't hear you get up. He glanced at me with a practiced smile. Got up early and figured I'd boil some water for your coffee. I froze. How do you know I drink coffee in the morning? I mean, I feel like most people drink coffee.
I was thinking that too.
Yeah. I recognized the acidic scent on your breath yesterday. Oh, okay. Damn.
Well.
Figured you want the water ready. His tone remaining nonchalant. Some habits are hard to miss. I rummaged through my package and pulled out a small tin of instant coffee. Well, I've got some bread too if you want some. Eric shook his head. Thanks, but I've already eaten.
He poured the hot water into 2 cups, and I stirred some powdered coffee into mine. I reached to pour some into Eric's cup, but he quickly lifted his cup of plain hot water to his mouth. Ugh, and drank it in one swift motion. Perhaps he prefers tea, I thought. It's plain hot water.
You don't like plain
Breakfast
hot water?
Done. I've had it. I've drinking like just plain hot water, but it's just like, it's just eh.
It feels like you're. It's like drinking urine. It's just like drinking urine.
It just feels wrong. It's like. Breakfast done, we put out the fire and efficiently packed up the tents and gear. The morning light filtered through the trees, casting long shadows across the forest floor. I unfurled my map and compass and started to plot a course to the next campsite. When I felt Eric put his hand on my shoulder, I know the way, he said simply. There was no arrogance to this toad, only a certainty that left no room for discussion. The air was crisp, and birds called sporadically from the treetops. Eric moved with an ease that made it clear he was more than comfortable here. Navigating rocks and inclines without hesitation, we hiked for hours in silence. Curiously, Eric fell back to walk behind me, occasionally offering directions or commenting on my footing. At first, I thought he might have just been giving me space, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he either wanted to watch me or didn't want me to watch him. The forest seemed to respond to our passage. The rustle of leaves was quieter, and the birds that had greeted the morning had gone silent. Eventually, the urge to pee forced me to set my backpack down, and I walked behind a nearby tree. When I returned, I noticed the main compartment zipper on my backpack was pulled down just a crack. Need anything for my pack? I asked Eric. I looked at your compass to make sure we're heading the right way. Not wanting to antagonize my new hiking companion out in the middle of nowhere, I gave him a nod, and we pressed on. The path gradually widened into a clearing, and the new campsite lay ahead. I unpacked my tent while Eric built the fire with practiced motions. Here, let me help you with that, Eric said quietly, and came over to me.
You definitely shouldn't have ate that score bar before reading, bro. I told you.
Hey.
You're probably...
Man, I am chugging my water. It's gooping me up.
I told you. You probably are pulling out your teeth in the middle of that read. Yuck.
I did at the start. I was picking it out.
He grabbed the tent stakes and drove them into the dirt with his bare, flat palm. Seeing my surprise, he patted my back, his hand feeling cold, even through the fabric of my shirt. He returned to the fire, sitting perfectly still and watching me with unnervingly attentive eyes. As we waited for the water to boil for supper, I retrieved the leather-bound book from my backpack. As I flipped it open, I noticed Eric's eyes slightly widen, a flicker of recognition that vanished as quickly as it appeared. He shifted back into his usual position, or posture, hands resting on his knees, and fixed his gaze on the flames. Settling back against a log. Jesus. I flipped to where I left off the evening before and continued to read. October 4th, 2025. We made a good time to the first campsite. Arrived well before sunset. A great start to our 5-day loop. Clear sky, light wind from the west. A gunshot woke me up after midnight. Eric's bag was empty. I called for him and received no response. He came out of the dark a few minutes later. Said he'd had to scare off a bear lurking around the camp. Wait, he has a gun?
Damn, yeah, I guess so.
We'll take a look around the area first thing in the morning. I guess that makes sense for somebody to have a gun and, like, if you're going camping.
Middle of nowhere, yeah.
Yeah. October 5th, 2025. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary around the camp. Found prints, not from a bear, though. Eric's been mostly quiet. He says he slept badly. Wait, so this is his book, right?
I'm guessing he's just adding pages. Like, I think he's adding to the book.
Okay, because I remember him saying he found a book, right? So I wasn't sure.
Yeah,
if he was writing in it
I think he's
here
adding
or
to
if
it.
he's adding to it, yeah. Air heavy with thunderclouds on the horizon, but the storm never came in. Trail mostly dirt dry. October 6th, 2025. I haven't seen Eric eat or drink since yesterday morning. He waved off breakfast at the stream. He didn't refill his bottle. At lunch he said he wasn't hungry. Maybe he's queasy. I tried to bring up some old stories. He seemed oddly curious, like it was the first time he had heard them. Didn't add details or correct me the way he always does, just watched the firewood collapse to coals. Otherwise, it was very humid, and a full moon helped to light up the forest at night. October 7th, 2025. I woke up twice last night. Eric was still up. I don't think he noticed me. I decided to confront him this morning about his strange behavior. He just sat there.
Expressionless. I've noticed that his reactions always come a second too late. Like he's trying to figure out how he should respond correctly. His skin looks different too. New wrinkles, a slight yellow tone, and his hair has started to fall out. Uh-oh. My only explanation is that something might have poisoned him. October 8th, 2025. It doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, doesn't blink. There's no soul behind its eyes. It just sits by the fire and watches. I cut a hole in the back of my tent. Tonight, I'm leaving. I looked up from the journal and met Eric's eyes across the fire. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then, without breaking eye contact, he said, calmly, "The water is ready." My hand shook as I fumbled with a pack of dried chicken and poured in the hot water. The plastic crinkled loudly in the silence. Eric shifted slightly, the firelight flickering across his face. He opened a small pack of chicken, picked out the pieces of meat with his bare, dirty fingers, rinsed off the sauce in the boiling water, and swallowed the pieces whole. After some time, he spoke. "These woods are old. They have stories, if you know how to listen." "What kind of stories?" I asked, careful not to let my unease show. "Well, there's one about a creature that's been here longer than any map or trail. Most people think it's a local legend, but I've seen sites that suggest otherwise." He leaned forward and, for a moment, his face held what might have been a look of sorrow. "They say a long time ago, there was a man who lived not far from here, a hunter, clever and strong, but with a hunger in him that no food could satisfy. He began to hunt not deer, not rabbit, but people, travelers, wanderers. One was enough to stray too far into the woods. He ate their flesh, wore their skins, and thought himself above the laws of men. For his crimes, God, or maybe something older, cursed him to walk the forests forever, never resting, never belonging. To torment him further, they say, he was given a gift. He could take the shape of any man or woman and wear any face he desired. He could study them, live beside them, almost fool himself into believing he was human again. Almost. Eric stirred the fire with a stick.
Ding.
That's pretty sick.
I almost okay, but I don't know. I'll talk about it. I'll talk about it after. No matter how much he learned, how to laugh, how to cry, or how to tell stories, something always betrayed him. His reflection came back wrong. His eyes were void of soul, and when people noticed, when they looked too closely, well, he had to feed. He paused, letting the silence fill the clearing. They say he still walks these woods, listening, learning, hoping that someone will mistake him for a human. Yeah, spooky story, I muttered, no longer able to meet his eyes. My mind raced. Should I make a move, bolt into the forest and risk being caught in the dark, or stay and act like nothing ever had changed? Every instinct screamed to run, yet my body was frozen in place like a statue. I studied the features of my companion, and with every glance my stomach twisted tighter. His skin was pale and patchy, loose in some places and stretched too tightly over bone in others, yellow with hints of purple bruising around his neck. It looked as though it had begun the early stages of decomposition. Even his breathing seemed off, shallow and deliberate, as though he were carefully measuring the amount of air in each inhale. And yet I had been blind to the truth, staring me in the face. I curled my hands into fists to keep the shaking from showing, forced myself to breathe evenly, and to keep my expression neutral. My mind raced to find the right words, a way to break the tension. I rubbed out my eyes, feigning a tired yawn, and muttered something about turning in early, hoping that my voice didn't reveal the dread that had solidified inside me. Okay, but I feel like he would be able to smell it, right? Because he's already...
Yeah, I was thinking that too.
Yeah, because he's already hinted that he has a crazy sense of smell. Because, like, how the hell do you smell that in someone's breath? If he drank that...
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess, but, like,
Acidic
I
smell.
feel like he didn't get close enough for that. You know what I mean?
Wait, he's just like... I'm assuming he's this creature he's describing.
Yeah, so...
And,
I know... I'm pretty sure there's some animals that can smell the shit like that, right? Like, or they
yeah,
can sense
they
it.
can, like, sense fear and shit. Like,
Yeah.
like they can just sense how...
He
Stuff
would-
like that,
I feel
yeah.
like he would definitely pick up on that. Anyways, sorry. Just as my mind had started to pick apart the inconsistencies of his disguise, I couldn't help but wonder if he could do the same to me. I slipped into my tent and pulled the zipper closed with slow, careful hands. My fingers shook as I unfolded the map, the paper crackling far too loudly. I traced the lines with a finger, estimating the nearest road as just over 40 kilometers away. It's pretty far. The problem was,
Yeah.
I couldn't even be sure of our location, having followed Eric's lead. The entire day was also a day's trek in daylight, let alone in the middle of the night, but it was the only chance I had. Essentials only: flashlight, compass, map, knife, water bottle, protein bars, matches, and with a journal. I stuffed them all into a bag. I stuffed them all into a small drawstring sack that usually held my sleeping bag.
I like how essentials are protein bars.
Yeah. You get that protein, man. Maybe he's a gym bro.
Not protein! Oh, he's fucking jacked. Impelled by the journal entries, I carefully drew the knife from its sheath. I gripped the knife with both hands to steady it and pressed the steel into the tense nylon until it parted with a faint hiss. I eased myself through the slit, every rustle of the fabric thunderous to my ears, and slipped into the darkness just beyond the firelight. The forest stretched on without end. The only sounds were my rasped breath and the thud of my heartbeat. Beneath it, faint at first, there was something else. A low murmur at the edge of hearing, like someone whispering in the distance. As I ran closer, the sound grew into the unmistakable rush of water. The river was wider than I had hoped. The moonlight glinted across the surface, silver streaks breaking into shards where the current churned. I hesitated at the riverbank, weighing whether to wade through the freezing water or search for a way around, when a sudden crash echoed from the direction I had come. Twigs snapping, branches splintering. Something was moving fast and coming straight towards me. I ripped the sack from my shoulders and hurled it across the water. It landed with a thud on the gravel on the far shore. I stepped into the water. The cold was immediate and brutal, stabbing like needles up my legs. The current nearly swept me off my feet. It wrenched a boot loose from my left foot and dragged it downstream. I waded toward a massive tangle of driftwood, caught against some rocks. My body pressed against the slick wood as I slowly submerged myself until only my eyes broke the surface. I forced myself to stay still, every muscle locked. It crawled from the tree on all fours, its limbs bending in impossible directions, moving with unnatural elasticity. Its spine arched grotesquely, inverted like a demonic contortionist. Eric's head was twisted around on his own neck, with his eyes staring forward. It waded into the water, coming straight toward my hiding spot, each step deliberate, like a predator, closing in on its prey. It stopped and jerked upright, like a dog catching a scent. It sniffed the air and slowly tilted its head downstream. Oh, he smells the boot. In a sudden blur of motion, it bolted in that direction, thrashing through the water with a speed that defied anything human. I dragged myself from the freezing water and stumbled onto the shore. I collapsed for a moment on the gravel, heaving for air. I slowly managed to stand up, hoisted the sack over my shoulder, and staggered onto the trees. My left foot, now only protected by a wet wool sock, hurt with every misstep. Jolts of pain shot up my leg as I stepped on sharp rock or pointy twig. I leaned against a tree and slid down until my back rested firmly against the bark. I needed warmth and dry clothing, but a campfire would likely act as a beacon to my location. Hands shivering, I fumbled for my bag and pulled out the leather-bound book. I held it flat to illuminate the pages with the help of the moonlight as I flipped to the next entry.
October 9th, 2025. Humans evolved to be expert pattern recognizers. Our brains expend valuable energy analyzing forces in real time. Mouth curvature and cadence of a blink. The subtle?
Subtle?
Subtle? Really? That's how you spell subtle? No,
Yeah.
No, that's how you spell subtle.
It's fair.
The subtle shift of a pupil. Most people don't notice. It's unconscious, but when a detail doesn't fit the expected pattern, something ancient and deep inside us rebels. It's an instinct honed over thousands of years, designed to protect us from the unnatural. If someone is reading this, don't make the same mistake I did. It has spent centuries perfecting its disguise because it craves the one thing it can never truly be: a human. Don't break the illusion, not for a second, not even in your thoughts. I pushed myself off the tree, every joint stiff, and started walking. I forced my steps to be silent and careful. I waded back across the river. My destination was just a short distance away on the riverbank. I found a trail of broken branches and followed them until I saw a faint glow flickering between the trees ahead. The campsite looked unchanged. The familiar silhouettes of tents stood exactly where we had pitched them, but there was no sign of Eric. I stripped off my soaked clothes, hung them over a branch, and dug out a dry set from my bag. I sat down next to the campfire and stretched out my hands to feel the warmth. A shift in the air pricked the back of my neck, and I heard the clicking sounds of joints snapping back into place one by one. Ugh.
Yuck.
I have something I wanted to tell you. I found the book on the bus. My thumb traced the worn spine as I spoke. I think you know who it belongs to. Perhaps you could return it to its owner for me. Eric stepped out of the darkness. His neck was bruised, and the stretched remnants of his face pulled too many ways, sagged down, particularly covering his eyes and mouth. He looked at me from across the flames, then sat down on the other side. He took the book from me and placed it on the ground next to him. Dismissively. Sorry, that took me... I had to look at that word for a second. He then stretched out his other hand, holding something. Found your shoe. I stared down at the dirty sock protecting my foot for a moment, then forced myself to look up to meet his eyes. Thanks, I managed. Must have slipped off your foot, Eric said casually. I was unlucky. Unlucky? Eric repeated, tasting the word in his mouth. No, you are lucky. Lucky I found it. How would we finish our hike if you couldn't walk properly? Every moment now felt like a performance under scrutiny.
Scrutiny.
I know, I got it. Every blink and every word I spoke had to seem natural. Too fast, too slow, too rehearsed, and the fragile illusion I had mended for him would shatter.
You should get some sleep. The last leg will be more difficult, Eric stated, matter-of-factly. Grateful for the sudden exit, I gave him a small nod and slipped into my tent, but sleep wouldn't come. I lay awake for hours, listening intently and waiting for something to happen. Morning soon arrived, and I emerged from the tent to find Eric exactly where I had left him, though something was different. The item that had kept me alive was gone. As we packed up the tents, for the last time, I spotted the now blackened and gray remnants of leather and paper in the fire pit. Ooh, he burned it. The trail was uneven and littered with slippery rocks, wet from the overnight dew. Concentrating on each careful step gave me a brief mental reprieve from the predator I could feel stalking just a few paces behind me. As I stepped out of the tree line and onto the road, the footsteps behind me abruptly disappeared. I turned and looked back into the dark woods I had spent the weekend trapped in. The only traces of him were quadruple prints pressed into the dirt beside my own boot prints. My mind replayed every moment of the last few days, like a nightmare. I couldn't shake as I waited for my ride home. The bus rumbled as it pulled away from the stop. I leaned back in my seat, the window cool against my temple, and let out a slow breath. After a while, I slipped a hand into my jacket pocket and felt something dry and brittle. Hard scraps of paper rested in my hand. The edges were blackened and fragile, but the writing was still legible. I took out my phone and opened a blank note. I'm doing my best to recount everything that has happened, while the memories are still vivid and fresh in my mind. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was good. Honestly, like that was pretty creepy. I enjoyed the end segment a lot.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why I didn't kill him. Was it just because of the...
I think it was he came back and maybe it's because he got away from him and he just he accepted it. He's like, okay, he got away, you know.
I don't know. That feels
gave him
weird
that chance.
though for a predator. 'Cause
It does feel weird.
he's mentioned something with the book. Okay, wait. Hang on. At the start, who do you get the book off of again?
There was a guy who was real frantic and he was like tweaking, and
Man,
he was
before
like getting off the bus real fast, and then he accidentally left the book behind. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming the guy had run into this creature, I guess, and
Well-
he must have recognized the book from the guy.
Okay.
That's my guess.
Okay,
You
wait.
could also ask the.
The bus suddenly came to a halt, and distraught man got aboard. He stumbled down the aisle, sat across from me, and began to scribble intently into a battered leather-bound book. He looked older, maybe in his 60s. Tired, looking weary, well-worn, in dirty hiking gear. Okay, so wait. Is this the guy that... So, was the guy who left the book, was that the guy the monster took form of?
Maybe. I feel like he would have. Feel like he would have recognized him right away, though.
Maybe. Okay, so that's a little unclear. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to ask the guy.
What I think is just this guy had the same kind of experience that the main character had, where he had a run-in in the woods somewhere with this thing.
Well, that's what I'm wondering. But
just...
what he scribbled in the book? Did we ever find out what he scribbled in the book?
No.
I don't think we did either.
No.
So that feels weird. Unless we did. No, I don't think we missed that.
I still think he. I still think he. We get to see what he scribbled.
We have to see, or we didn't see.
We didn't. I don't think we saw.
Yeah,
what he scribbled.
I don't think we did either. Okay, so I have a couple notes then. It was like, don't get me wrong, like I really liked this. It was very well written. There's
This was
just a
nice.
couple
Nice, good story.
things that I think need to be like maybe looked into a little more like attention to just a little more touch ups, or just for future writing
That's fair.
stuff. That the book thing was weird because why was this book in play in this story if we don't
Yeah,
really
why was it so
learn?
important?
Yeah, why was it so important? Like, why is this book so important? Why, like, unless we missed it, like, if we missed it, this is my bad, but I don't know if we did.
Yeah,
What did the guy write in that book? That seems weird that we don't know what he wrote in the book if this guy has this book, right?
yeah,
If you wanted to make this book in play because, like, it kind of saves him, I don't really understand why it saves him. And why it couldn't have just been his own journal instead of having this character. If so, if at the start you're implying this character was the form the monster took, why doesn't our character recognize him?
yeah.
I think that's a little weird too. And one other note I had, other than that, was the part where the monster tells the story. I found that weird.
I
Why?
think he was just telling the guy about himself, right?
I guess, but
Like,
I
cause
feel like it lets us know too much. To like, you don't need to know that much about a monster. You know what I mean? Like, and
yeah,
especially,
that's fair.
and then for him just to let him go after feels weird. You know what I mean? He's like, I feel like if the monster's telling him, like what he is exactly, you know what I mean? He is implying that is because he's gonna kill him. He's like he doesn't really care. He's like, you're not like you're
Yeah,
gonna tell anybody anyways. But then for him just to like let him go, like that's weird. Like I find that
that
weird.
is a bit
I
strange.
find that
Yeah,
very strange. Um, I also feel like having the monster monologue like that is weird too, because then the character knows exactly what he is. Like it's just like just like weird stuff. Like I felt like it was just exposition where we didn't really need it. Like I feel like if you just left the monster ambiguous for us, like I think we could have honestly put the pieces together. Or the book, like that could have been just something he read of the book from this guy, right? It was not the story necessarily, but like maybe of the him finding hikers bones or something, or like I don't know. There's definitely better ways you could have done that to make us aware of what it is. But also, like, it is also good to leave some things up in the air for the audience kind of to, like, think about. Like, at the end here, it's kind of what you did. Was like, oh, yeah, where he just kind of, like, lets him go. Like, now we're like, why did he let him go? But I feel like there's just a lot of other stuff that I'm wondering that maybe just wasn't explained very well or was explained too well for really no reason. Because he explained him this whole story about him and then he doesn't kill him. He just lets him go. Unless you're implying he wants PM to, like, share the message
maybe
of
he
the
wants people to know.
monster.
Yeah,
Yeah, but, like, why? You know what I mean?
they can include him. I don't know.
So I mean,
That's
like,
weird.
it's weird. I just think it's a little strange. But other than that, like it's still good. Like it's still very good. It's
Yeah,
just
I really enjoyed it.
yeah, it just has a lot of some things that need to be maybe explained better or explained less, if that makes sense. That's about
Yeah,
all I have to say.
fair.
I'm
Um,
if you got this far, everybody, thank you for watching and listening. If you guys can
thank you very
subscribe
much.
or give us a like, it helps us out a lot. But that's it from us. I hope everyone
Yep.
has a good night, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.